I'm Heather.
And I'm Desiree.
And you're listening to
the Perpetually Overdue Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Perpetually Overdue Podcast. My name is Heather.
And I'm Desiree.
And this week's episode, we're going to do something a little fun, a little cheeky, a little bit in the vein of the Am I the Asshole videos. And it is hot takes from Reddit. Now, for those who don't know what a hot take is, it's pretty much a controversial opinion. Yeah. How controversial? It all entirely depends on you. Some of these may seem a little scandalous. Some of them may just seem harmless and fun. But either way, it is a hot take. And we are going to comment on it and express how we feel about it, because I know everybody's dying to know what our opinions are.
Especially those YouTube commenters.
Oh, yeah. They love hearing opinions from women specifically, too.
I will say, at the end of the day, remember, y'all, it's not that serious.
No. This is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be entertaining. Put us on in the background while you're cleaning, while you're cooking, while you're living life. And just listening, because really, it's a podcast, so you don't have to actually watch, but you can on YouTube, just so you know. So let's just get right into the hot takes. Just so you know, it's a full range of topics. This is not on one specific topic, so we're going to go here, there, and everywhere. First one being, and this is very close to both of our hearts, fiction isn't reality, and thus everything can be done and enjoyed. I know. It's a yes and no for me.
Really?
Yeah.
For
me, go ahead.
For me, it feels a little more nuanced because, and maybe it's because I have stumbled upon all sorts of ranges of fiction, period.
You need more time to think, because I can definitely get into how I feel about it.
Well, let me hear yours, and I will piggyback on, because for me, it's not 100% black and white. It leans more towards one than the other, but yeah.
I agree with you. I think, yes, in theory, everything can be done and enjoyed. However, I think it's more so how it's done than what it is, what the topic is, that is important. In other words, if we're talking about a taboo subject that could be potentially triggering, I think, one, having trigger warnings is important.
Yes.
Allowing people to decide what they're getting themselves into. Springing it on people, not okay. There are certain genres like horror where there are no trigger warnings, because you kind of know with horror what is possible. And a lot of it is possible. A lot. So
buyer beware, you enter horror, you can stumble on any possibility.
You definitely have to do your research and make sure that you know that what you're getting into. I know with the romance genre, you do have to have trigger warnings if there are certain heavy topics, and I think that that's wonderful. I don't see anything wrong with trigger warnings, but I do know that in horror, it can kind of spoil some of the plot if you provide those trigger warnings. So with that being said, I think that fiction can be a reflection of real life, and in real life, a bunch of bad shit happens. Yeah. Really bad things, and a bunch of things that people find to be uncomfortable. It doesn't necessarily have to be bad, but maybe it's not your cup of tea. And so out there somewhere in the world, somebody is going to appreciate it. However, I think that I'm not really into shock for shock value's sake. And so I feel like if you're going to do something like, let's say, have a grape scene in your book, that it should have a purpose. It shouldn't just be for the simple fact of showing a woman getting violated. And I think that when it gets into that, it's something else. It's beyond just fiction. It's now, for lack of a better term, like kind of like trauma porn. And it's not for the purpose of the character's development or for the purpose of condemning said act. It's more for getting off on it. And that can get really, really twisted. It's kind of like, this is going to feel like left field. It's like kind of Grand Theft Auto for me. They allow everything and anything in that video game. And I don't necessarily like the fact that you can act out certain behaviors that in real life you would go to jail for. And yes, it is a video game. People will argue it's not real life. I understand that. And I am not the type of person to think that just because you consume a certain type of media that you are automatically going to go out and act on that.
Mhm.
I think that people who have certain tendencies already, yes, I think that media can fuel those things, but
Mhm.
those things exist in that person already. It's
Mhm.
not like you read it and then suddenly you're like, I'm going to go do this thing. And you
Exactly. I
never
agree.
thought about it before.
Yeah.
I do think that for me, it's more of like, it's good writing when there's a
Mm.
purpose for it. It's good writing when it feeds into the character's development, into their character arc, when it allows the character to grow, not just for the sake of putting it in there because there's some sort of sick, twisted purpose to it. In theory, I will say that, yeah, everything
Mm.
can be done and enjoyed because it's not reality. And I think that that's an argument that will always continuously come up when people are trying to defend
Mm.
bad things essentially in
Mm.
fiction. They'll be like, well, it's fiction, it's not real life. So there you go.
Mm. Yeah, and I pretty much agree. To add to that, it's a matter of I think people struggle sometimes still till this day to understand fiction is fiction.
Mhm.
There's I mean, we talked about it the other week on when we spoke about romance being therapy,
Yeah.
and we were saying how women sometimes specifically don't know how to differentiate between your book boyfriend and your real life partner, like needing to have that separation
Yeah.
in your mind that fiction is fiction, reality is reality. And some people do struggle with that. And so I think at the end of the day, like you said, people who already have certain tendencies, people who clearly need to work on aspects of themselves, those people may ruin it for others, but they would fall into the argument of going, see, it's not good to, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But I think those are the outliers. Those are the asterisks that it's not a black and white, but for the
No.
most part, in theory, exactly. I do believe that it isn't reality. So everything can be done and enjoyed. Um, on all spectrums. I mean, fantasy, sci-fi, there's so many aspects to fiction. That's what we love is to be able to jump into a different world, a different person, a different circumstance and experience it from the safety of wherever we're taking in fiction of any
Yeah.
media.
I will say I do think that there is for me, I think that the reason why that there's a stark contrast between like books and movies
Mm.
versus like video games or virtual reality is because when you're reading a book, you're reading a character's story. It's not
Mhm.
you. You're not in that story. You're not
Mhm.
doing those things. Same thing with TV shows or movies. Video games, you are physically doing these things. Like you're
Mm.
prompting this avatar that is
Mm.
you to do these things. Same thing with virtual reality. Like you are
Mhm.
acting these things out yourself. So I think that there's more of a connection there of personal accountability and action
Mm.
versus just reading something that somebody else is doing or watching
Mm.
something that somebody else is doing.
Think it from the peripheral instead of actually being the person in the driver's seat making these things happen.
Exactly. So, all that to say, read your blue alien porn.
It's not porn.
Read your blue alien smut. How about that?
I mean, it's not my favorite word, but many have taken it back.
Yes,
So,
I
yes.
understand. In the romance community, it is now a word to celebrate
For
as
some,
opposed
not
to
for all
condemn.
in the
Yeah.
romance community, but yes. Our next hot take is, which I'm very curious because apparently Heather has something to say about this, and I'm very curious. We need to bring back duels.
Yes.
H
I agree. And I'll tell you
really?
why. Well, here's the thing. So,
Like to the death?
yeah.
Okay, explain.
Well, this is why I think Duels is different than, like, let's say what the gladiators did, where they were watching people fight
No, yeah,
lions
that's
and bears
different
and things like that.
completely. Yeah.
We're talking about 2 consenting adults getting into it. I think that it's a good thing because 99.9% of duels happen between men, and some men just need to go.
But a lot of times it can be a good innocent man in your life who's going to not shoot first or fast enough.
Well, if they agree to do a duel, I think that duels should be something that both parties have to consent to. I don't think it's something that I don't know exactly how it was done in the past, but if it were to be brought back, I think it'd have to be two consenting people who agree that like this is the risk that they're
Uh,
taking.
because
And
back then it was more like if you got challenged, you were
Yeah,
screwed. You had no way of backing out of it. Even if it wasn't something you wanted to do,
I
you had
agree.
to by
Yeah.
honor, like it was demanded that if you were challenged, you're screwed. You're gonna have to risk your life whether you wanted to or not. That
Right.
aspect, yeah.
Which
Um,
this is an asterisk on that, or a
okay.
variation of it, where I think that if duels were to come back, they would have to be done it a little bit differently, where it's, again, two consenting people who are like, they have a vendetta against each other, something happened between them. Well, I mean, because people get into physical fights all the time.
Yeah.
And whether they're sober, drunk, whatever the reason behind it. And a lot of people like to cite this, even though I don't necessarily agree that it is applicable to humans, but the whole survival of the fittest,
Mm-hmm.
that nature will take out the weak ones.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of seeing that now with the male loneliness epidemic. People have related that to men's genetics not being carried on to the next generation because they can't find a woman,
Mm.
and that only certain males' genetics will carry on with their children. Because, but again, it's kind of like a very cheeky take on the male loneliness epidemic. But I kind of feel like, so if you guys are stupid enough to consent to fighting to the death, then go ahead and do it. And yeah, I stand by what I said, that some men need to get into those things. And
I mean, I won't disagree with that.
because, like, I I'm not gonna say that two women wouldn't ever do it, but I do think that it's probably gonna predominantly be men who would
Yeah.
participate in that.
Yes, because of course, ego, bravado, all that jazz.
Honor. I
Honor,
don't find
my.
that to be super
There was
honorable, but
it wasn't. It was totally a pansy excuse to hide behind, roid rage.
no, it's true. It's putting violence as a Band-Aid on a bigger problem that
Yeah.
they just can't address with their words,
No,
essentially.
and then as usual, they come out on top with locker room chat, slapping your
Oh,
ass.
for
Man, we just repeat history.
look at his skills. He can shoot faster than the other guy. He's so brave. He's so strong.
See,
A woman should
like,
procreate with him.
oh, um, like you said, if it's two consenting adults,
Yeah.
have at it. You're
I
dumb
don't think it
enough.
would happen. Realistically, I think that we've evolved. Well, not really.
No. If the last 2 years have taught us anything, I don't think we've evolved for shit.
No. And see, and that, when I'm thinking about the type of people who would get into it, I'm thinking about those people in particular. I'm thinking about the
Mm,
people who are
mm,
enacting violence right now on the streets. And so
yeah.
I don't care if they take each other out. More power to you. But anyway, on to the next one. This one, I think, is the first part of it, I think, is probably pretty commonly and widespread
Because I
acceptable.
feel like they're two very separate, like,
They were, so
stances.
I did go onto Reddit and I did take these directly from Reddit. So this was something that this person put together. So that's why
Mm,
I kept them together. But this person thinks that we should legalize weed and prostitution.
mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
So, does my answer have to embody both together? Or can I
No,
have.
no, you can have different
Okay.
opinions on each.
Okay. At this point, I mean, there are already states that have legalized weed.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so
I
I'm
live
like,
in one.
yeah. So honestly, at this point, I'm going now. Okay, what I'm about to say could be taken, but whatever. At this point, people are already accessing it, whether you legalize it or not.
Totally.
Granted, that's not for. I feel like weed is separate to hardcore drugs because then
We're
the
just
argument.
strictly talking about weed.
Exactly. Because then the argument is like, then make everything available. Anyway,
Mm,
specifically weed, I say
yeah.
legalize it.
Yeah.
Prostitution, sex work at this point, I mean, I think there needs to be safety for them and things available. And unless they legalize it, I feel like government systems won't give them access to the things they need to do the thing that they're choosing to do, where they're going to be safely taken care of and
Yeah.
given the health medically or health system care or
Yeah.
anything that they would need so that they can thrive in that choice safely. It
Mhm.
needs to be legalized in order for them to have access to that.
I agree. I agree with you. I think a lot of people's argument against legalizing weed is that it's gonna open the floodgates somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even growing up, when we did things like DARE. I
Oh
don't
my
know if people know
gosh.
what DARE
Oh
is,
my gosh.
but it's like drug alcohol resistance education is what it stands for.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, I'm pretty
wow.
sure that's what it stands for. I remember people acting like marijuana was a gateway drug. And
Yeah.
now having partaken in edibles, I've smoked joints before legally. I can tell you that it is not. I
No.
have never had a desire to do anything beyond smoking weed.
Yeah.
I think that if you do, the desire was already there. The
Exactly.
desire, the openness to trying other
Yeah.
things is already present. And I think that just takes accountability away from us, which it needs to be on us to be able to fucking control ourselves. Just like with
Mm.
alcohol, like
Yeah.
you can have a
Alcohol can
drink.
be, yeah, just alcohol in some ways can be far worse than
Oh, for
some,
sure.
yeah. But
I mean, you can
we
have
are
a
okay with
drink or
that.
you can have 20 drinks. Like, you gotta make the decision.
Yeah,
It's up to you to make the decision and be responsible, essentially. And so,
exactly.
like you said, people are gonna get access to it anyway. I know people in states where it's not legal who
Mhm.
get access to it, and it's a lot more dangerous because it's not
Yeah,
regulated.
yeah.
And I would much rather go to a dispensary who I know they're following all of the proper procedures. I don't
Yes,
have to worry if it's laced with something else. I don't have to
exactly.
worry about any of that stuff. And I don't have to worry about not having a supply because there always will be a supply. There will always be a dispensary that you can go to. It takes away a lot of the danger or the shadiness when it is
Mhm.
legalized. Not to
Yes.
mention that people use it for all sorts of reasons. We're not
Yeah.
just using it to get high. There
Mhm.
are people who use it for chronic pain. I mean,
Yep.
it's prescribed to cancer patients for a reason.
Yeah.
Medical marijuana. People use it to help with sleep, help with anxiety. There's
Yep.
a whole host of very viable reasons why
Mhm.
weed is something that should be accessible to everybody. So, yes, I agree with that. Prostitution, sex work. I was actually a little surprised about your opinion. I thought you were going to say no.
Oh.
Not for any, like, judgmental moral reason, but just because I actually don't really have a reason why, I just thought no.
I mean,
So
yeah, there was a time where I probably would have said
yeah.
no, but I think in the last few years, I've become more educated about those who have chosen that path.
Yeah.
And even funny enough, I was watching a YouTuber, a trans woman, and she was explaining a lot about how that has been usually the only route for a lot of transitioning trans, especially trans women 20 years ago, because financially it was the best option to get money to help them transition
Yeah, to get
because
hormones and stuff.
because the system was and still is prejudiced against them and discriminating, and
Yeah.
so they needed a way to make money, and that was one of the only viable options where they could actually make some money was through sex work. And so yeah, I've heard about many different stories, and I've become more open-minded.
I agree with you. I have gotten a lot of education since leaving Christianity about sex work, and I have
Mm,
even heard people that are not exactly acquaintances, but they're kind of like in my peripheral, you know, group of people that I know who have talked about sex work, who have participated in sex work. And it has kind of lifted a lot of the taboo feelings that I've
mm,
had around sex work previously. I do agree 100% with you. I think legalizing it one would help the sex workers so much,
yeah.
whether male, female, otherwise,
Mhm.
to get access to probably more medical programs or things of that nature,
Just
especially
safety
safety.
regulations and
Yeah. I think too, I think it's very difficult to work when you're in constant fear of being arrested and
yeah.
taken in. And I think it's a huge waste of resources for our police officers who could be fucking solving murder cases to be worrying about picking up prostitutes. These are consenting adults.
Mhm.
And it should be between consenting adults. And that's the
Yeah.
other thing. I'm not going to say that legalizing prostitution is going to suddenly end human trafficking because I don't think that
Mm,
that's going to be the
no,
case. But
sadly.
I would be interested to see how it does have an effect on human trafficking
Mm,
and whether or not with it becoming legitimized it would have a positive impact on that and that we would see less of it. I think just relieving the shame around sexuality and around what people desire, because while some people may go to a sex worker because they are lonely, don't have a relationship or somebody that they can have sexual relations with, I think it also could be a kink, something that they enjoy doing, that they enjoy the aspect of it being a stranger and the aspect of like just picking somebody up and taking them to a hotel and all of that stuff and it being sort of mysterious.
And probably way safer than just picking up a random person at a bar and having a one night stand sometimes.
And I mean, really, what is the difference except that you're paying this person? And if porn stars do this for a living and get paid to do it, then why shouldn't sex workers be able to do it as well? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it just
And
what?
like you said, taking it out of the shadows
Yeah.
would create less shady, icky places, pimps, and all these different things of like the people controlling
Yeah.
the aspect of what it is now and it being in the dark and it being, like you said, with guilt and shame cloaked over it.
Yeah.
A lot of manipulation happens because of that against the sex workers and
Abuse, physical abuse, violence.
lots of
Yeah.
abuse, and they feel like they have no other option. And so there are so many things that would be far more, the outcome
Positive.
would,
Yeah.
far more positive for both, all involved, basically.
Yeah. Because we know what's happening. Regardless
Yes.
of whether it's legal or not,
It's happened
prostitution
for
is happening, sex work is
centuries.
happening. It's gonna always exist and be around. Why not make it legalized, regulate it so that there is more safety for the sex workers, so that they
Yeah.
have more resources available to them, and so that the people who are engaging with sex workers don't have to be ashamed of what they desire and what they
Mhm.
want. If they are treating the sex worker with care, if they're not
Mhm.
crossing any boundaries, because it's up to the sex worker what boundaries they have and what they're
Yeah.
willing to do and not do. If they are paying for their services, why it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be an
Agreed.
issue.
Agreed.
And I think that if they were to legalize it and a sex worker were to have violence done against them, they're probably more likely to have that person be prosecuted.
Yes.
Because right now, you're talking about an illegal thing that was done during an illegal thing. And I know that a lot of police probably don't waste their time with trying to find the John that sex worker is with who, punched their face a bunch of times and or broke one of their bones or things like that because they're like, well, you shouldn't have been doing it in the first place. It's
Exactly.
illegal kind of thing. So
It becomes victim blaming for sure every time because it's kind of like, well, you put yourself in that situation that was illegal anyway.
and it's already a thing with women being sexual, period. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't even have to be sex work. If a woman is sexually assaulted, there's always victim blaming. There's always like,
Yep.
what did you wear? What did you say? Did you give him the wrong
Why
idea?
didn't you scream? Why didn't you yell no? Blah, blah, blah.
A million different things that's always placed on the woman and
Yeah.
not on the man who did the thing.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think that it would be beneficial for the sex worker, but also for the Johns who want to go
Yeah.
out and pay for sex. Let them do
Yeah.
it. As long as
And
they are, following the boundaries, then there's nothing wrong.
exactly. And that's what I was going to say. And then taking out a lot of the bad apples who obviously
Mhm.
take advantage of the sex workers,
Yeah.
use them, manipulate them, drug them, all these things.
Because they
There
know
would
that no one will help them.
exactly.
Yeah. All right, on to the next one.
So the next hot take, get rid of daylight savings time.
Yes.
I say get rid of it. It's so annoying to like
is.
go through this confusing mid-year switch up and then
Yeah.
other places didn't do it like Puerto Rico. So it's like they didn't change time, but now they were the same time of us. No, now they're an hour ahead. No, now I'm like,
yeah.
why?
We live in 2 different time zones. That's hard enough as it is without adding daylight savings time to it. But here's the thing. Daylight savings time existed in a time where we were mostly an agricultural society. So it made
Mhm.
sense for the purpose of agriculture and the
Yes.
way that the planting season went and the winter and everything like that. It
Mhm.
made sense. It doesn't necessarily make as much sense now. And I think that there was even a point in which we were going to vote on whether we should eliminate daylight savings time.
Yes, I remember.
I don't know whatever happened with that. Nothing ever happened with that. But
No.
I will say, I think that the benefits of getting rid of it outweigh any sort of cons. Now, I'm not a farmer. I don't know how getting rid of daylight savings time would affect farming.
Mhm.
But I will say that we're not mostly an agricultural society anymore. We
No.
are, ever since the industrial age, we are mostly a business tech company driven society.
Mhm.
Yes, we still have agriculture because we still got to eat,
Yeah.
but it doesn't dominate society the way that it used to. And I think that especially with the winter time, it would help so many people with their seasonal depression because good Lord, we need sunlight. We need vitamin D. And granted, I learned recently, I was educated by somebody who runs their own botanical tincture shop, an herbalist, that vitamin D is something obviously that we get from the sun, and that the sun's rays are different in the wintertime. You're not necessarily still getting that vitamin D. So it's something that you should supplement regardless, especially if you are melanated. If you are melanated, you are more likely to lack vitamin D. I know, I've experienced that before. I lived in Seattle and I was just in the short time that I lived there, I was extremely deficient of vitamin D. Never had that issue before until I moved to Seattle. And I had to take a very high dose of vitamin D for an extended amount of time. And I will say from personal experience, the fatigue is so fucking intense. You feel every morning that you wake up, you feel like a Mack truck has run over your body. You feel like you got no sleep at all. You are dragging ass. It's very similar to an iron deficiency, which I also have because my whole family's anemic. We're all anemic for some reason. We also have very heavy menstrual cycles, which lead to anemia. So I also have to take iron to help with that too. Iron deficiency also causes fatigue, but the vitamin D fatigue is different.
Vitamin D deficiency is no joke. It is very
It is a
dangerous.
beast.
Yeah, because it affects everything. It
does.
affects your hormones. It affects your mental health chemistry. Like literally, depression, anxiety, all of that gets heightened when you have the vitamin D deficiency.
Yeah,
Everything just goes out of whack in your body.
it
And
really does.
yeah.
It was very difficult because not only was I dealing with intense fatigue, which made me feel like I couldn't really do anything throughout the day because I was so I felt the tired in my bones. That's how it wasn't just a mental fatigue. It was a physical fatigue. Like my body felt weighed down.
Yeah.
It felt rough. Every morning waking up, I thought that for the first couple of times that it happened, and this is before I found out that I had a vitamin D deficiency, I thought that I was sick. That's how bad I felt in the morning. I was like, oh, I'm getting a cold or something. Then, yeah, your mood is heavily affected by that as well. I had way more breakdowns, tears, crying because of this vitamin D deficiency. And I didn't realize it until I started taking the medication and saw how dramatically my fatigue improved and my mood improved. And now, and during the winter time, because now I live in one of the sunniest states in the country, but during the winter time, I'm taking that vitamin D, girl, because I am not about to go back there.
It's not fun.
Awful. So I think that a lot of people, because of daylight savings time, you're going to have a lot more people who are likely to have vitamin D deficiencies, which contribute to seasonal depression, especially if they live in places like Seattle. It's where it's gloomy a lot of the time anyway. It's hard enough there without adding to it that now all of a sudden the sun goes down at 4:30. A lot of people have 9 to 5 jobs, and so you wake up, it is light outside, but you go right into work. And then by the time you get out, it's pitch black. It's like, when are you going to get any sort of sun throughout the day? And so, yeah, seasonal depression is a real thing. I think it would exist regardless of whether or not we had daylight savings time, but I think it's definitely amplified by the time change. And it just doesn't need to exist.
And for the agricultural argument,
Yeah.
I mean, they have been doing just fine without daylight savings time for centuries prior. They operate, honestly, by the natural circadian rhythm of the earth anyway, whether you change the time or not. Again, also not a farmer. Don't know if that aided in helping things when that was set in motion in this country or not, but it doesn't feel like it would make such an impact or difference. What they're sowing and planting and harvesting all has to follow the natural rhythm of earth, period. Whatever the time on the clock says, they have to follow that over anything else. So I really don't think it's necessary.
Okay. I agree. I 100% agree. And if anybody else does not agree with that hot take, they can definitely say why in the comment section. But you have to say why. Don't just be like, no, I don't agree, and not give a valid reason. Because I'm tired of people going into the comment section being like, blah, 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 and none of the argument is valid or backed up by any facts or evidence. It's just all emotion. Next one we have going on is for drivers. And I'm sure a lot of people have an opinion about this. I'm going to actually couple it with one other thing.
Okay.
One other hot take, which is just because you're in the passing lane, which is the left lane for everybody out there, it's the left lane. That is the passing lane. Okay? It doesn't mean that you have to go 20 plus over the speed limit.
Oh.
Also, hot take, if you are going at the speed limit or slightly under, get the fuck out of the left lane. That's my hot take. I agree with this, and I'll tell you why. One, it should not take you going 20 plus miles over the speed limit to pass somebody. If you need to go that fast, then just fucking stay behind the person. Because if they're already going at a pretty intense speed, if you have to go that much faster than them just to be able to pass them. One. Two, I'm sick and tired of people coming up behind me in the left lane while I'm trying to pass at a normal speed, which is usually above the speed limit, at least 10 above the speed limit. And I use the passing lane as it's intended. I stay in the right lane for the most part, and when I get close enough to the car in front of me and I want to keep the speed that I'm going, I will pass them. You will have these assholes who come right up into your fucking ass. Like, they want to get personal with you. They want to see the interior of your car. For no reason. Because where are you going to go, bitch? Yeah. Where are you going to go? I have to pass. And then when I get into the right lane, you can pass me. And then you can go as, like, if there's nobody in front of you, you can go as fast as you want. But the people who are up your ass because they think it's going to make you panic and go faster. And for some people, I'm sure that does work. For me, it does not. I will go slower. I will fucking brake check you. Not on the highway. But in a regular residential area, I'm terrible about this. And maybe it's because I always had cars that were, like, not brand new and not really, like, super fancy. I will brake check your ass, okay? I will make you panic and hit your brakes because you're about to rear-end me. Because let me tell you, if you do, it's your fault. Because nobody will know that I brake check you, okay? Nobody will have evidence that that is what happened. But when people are up my butt, it does not inspire me to go faster. It just doesn't. So I do think that there has to, and then also, like, if the speed limit typically is 60, 70 and you're going 90, that is way dangerous.
Yeah.
And a cause of probably too many accidents, speeding. What is your opinion?
I was not prepared for how passionate you were going to be with that one.
Let me tell you. But aren't you the same when you're driving? Aren't you like, motherfucker? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
all the time. Yes. Okay. So I will say this is probably going to be interesting for folks who live in cities and those who live in smaller towns. Yeah. Because I definitely know that growing up in South Florida, when I moved to Missouri and drove in Missouri, it was a very interesting experience. And my passengers, who were also Midwestern small towners,
probably freaked
out when I pulled some South Florida moves on the road. So it's interesting because, yes, okay, I agree definitely. Especially in Florida, I saw it all the time. People thinking that they're drag racers and they're literally weaving in and out 20 miles per hour over the speed limit, zooming because they have no patience. And the accidents that were like milliseconds from happening.
Yeah.
And that's not including all the ones that do happen. But it's so dangerous and really obnoxious and unnecessary to be a bully on the damn road. So yes, I also do. I get passionate on the road. I just wasn't prepared for Heather's passionate debate and plea. There are so many things that are instinct when driving that the whole like passing lane, left, right, like it's just something that I don't think about, but it's just instinct to do it. Yeah. We're all sharing this damn road. Yeah. Okay. And we all know the general rules to sharing the road. And for me, it's more like not having the consideration to put your fucking blinker. That I can get on a rage
pet
about.
peeves. We're going into pet peeves now. Because
But anyways.
I had thoughts in my head too. I was just like, I hate when people don't let you merge onto the highway, or if you're merging and I'm driving, I need you to go fucking faster. Because,
Yes.
you know, like if you're merging on the highway, please go fast enough that you get in front of me. I don't have to put on my brakes.
Yeah, people who hesitate, I'm like, you're gonna cause accidents.
Yeah. I mean, the people who are reckless, who do the speeding and the, you know, like not letting anybody get in, all of that shit, they cause accidents, but people who hesitate and they're not confident about driving, they also cause accidents
Yeah.
because they're not confident about the
Yeah.
driving. So please stay in the fucking right lane if you're going to go the speed limit or like 5 above the speed limit. If you're in the left lane, please be passing. Don't just stay in the fucking left lane the whole time. I don't care how fast you're going. That is
Mhm.
obnoxious. If
It's a
somebody,
dance. The road is a dance.
it's a
Okay?
beautiful, but it takes 2 people,
It
okay?
does. No, this feels like Regency era where everyone knew the dance. Everyone
Yeah.
knew the exact dance, and when it was time to come together and dance the same dance, even with interchanging weaving partners, everyone knew what to do. It's
Yeah.
the same thing on the
And it
road.
just takes one person to fuck it all up.
Yes.
For everybody else, they're way confused about what's going on.
Same thing on the road.
Use your blinker. Let people merge onto the highway. And if you're merging yourself, go fucking faster. End of story. On to the next
Moving
one.
on. So I find this interesting that is a hot take on Reddit, but apparently small businesses are not better than big businesses.
This might be the first one that I wholeheartedly disagree with.
Yeah, I don't understand why. Well, no, I do understand. What am I talking about? Again, learning so much about humanity in the last 2 years. But
Yeah.
yeah, I absolutely do not think that big businesses are better than small businesses, especially just learning so much about corporations and their shareholders and all the bullshit
Yeah.
that they monopolize and make decisions on, not based on the consumer at all, but just how
Yeah.
to line their own damn pockets. And I'm so glad that small businesses, and in part thanks to the internet, really had time to rise up more entrepreneurs in the last generation. Those opportunities have opened up
Mhm.
because small businesses have very much wanted to provide more authenticity,
Yeah.
more, product that entices and is for the consumer, not just to line their own damn pockets. So no, I do not agree with this hot take.
Yeah. I don't agree that small businesses are not better. I think that they are better. I think that they're far superior for a few different reasons. One, they help the local economy. These big
Yes.
box stores, they're not doing shit for the local economy. They're not, in the sense that their money isn't going back into the community.
Yeah.
These
Sure,
are
it gave
going
jobs, but yeah.
Yeah, but so do small businesses. And if we
Yes.
had more small businesses, people would have employment. It does not have to take a big box store or a big business coming in to provide employment. It just takes people shopping at small businesses. I
Mhm.
understand the arguments against small business. I understand that with small businesses, you are going to probably pay more. I
Mhm.
understand that with small businesses, they are not going to have every single item that you might
Mhm.
need, and that you might need to go to several places to get what you need as opposed to one stop location.
Mhm.
I understand that convenience can feel like it is better,
Mhm.
but I don't think mass production in general is good for the environment. I don't think it's good for us, the way that we consume things, especially in this country. We are over consuming so many things. There's so
Yeah.
much that we don't need, and the reason why we do have it or desire it is because we are pressured by marketing and society in general to always buy,
Mhm.
buy, have
Yep.
the latest of whatever, and it gets out of control. That with small businesses, you're more likely to get a quality product that will last you. Big businesses, they love forced obsolescence. They want you to buy the next model of whatever it is that they're selling, or they want you to buy more of whatever a product is that they're selling. So a lot of the times, the products either don't work, they do the opposite of what they're intended to do. For example, I just saw a video about a dermatologist telling us how most chapsticks don't actually work to hydrate your lips. They do the opposite
So that you
purposely
can
so that you
apply
can keep
more.
using it, and then you go through it faster,
So
and then you need to
gross.
go get more. Same thing with allergy medicine, how allergy medicine does not work against your allergies, and it does not do anything for you. And again, it causes you to have to go out and get more because you just need something.
Well, not just that, like it's been coming out more. Like I used to take Certex because of
Yeah.
my allergy reactions that become severe, and then found out that they unveiled that it actually perpetuates in long-term usage more the allergy. So I was
Yeah.
like, but that's the reason I'm taking it. And then migraine medicines do the same thing.
Yep.
The longer you take them, the more likely they're going to increase your migraine. So I'm like,
Yeah, because
what?
you're not these products are just they're made to make money. They're not made to actually solve the problem, and they're made in a way that is mass produced. When you mass produce anything, you're more likely to have issues with the product, even if it's just like a quality issue. And I've been seeing that more and more when you go to stores and something is brand new, you go home, you open it up, and there's issues with it.
Mhm.
You can't build it because the things don't line up or there's scratches on it or whatever. And you're like, this is brand new out of the box. And I feel like there used to be better quality control in big box stores. And now it feels like they just don't give a shit anymore because they
Assembly
know
line it
people are going to
out.
buy.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get better quality product. You're going to get more locally sourced things, which again helps the local economy when they're going to suppliers that are local to you. When the big box stores, a lot of their products are made out of the country. They're made
Mhm.
overseas. And yes, not all small businesses, not everything that they use is made in the United
Mhm.
States. They might, if somebody makes lotions, body butter, their containers might come from a different country, but a lot of the actual ingredients that they use will be locally sourced here. And
Mhm.
so again, the money goes back into the local economy. So if you want to better your local economy, it's better to shop at small businesses. But I get the argument about affordability
Yeah. Yeah.
and I get the convenience argument, although I think the
Yes.
affordability argument is a little bit more valid than the convenience
Agreed.
argument.
Agreed. I think the convenience argument is more just what we've been taught and spoiled into in
Yeah.
recent, like the last 20 years. We've become so comfortable with suddenly convenience that we've almost forgotten what it was like. And it's still in our lifetime. There was a time it wasn't that convenient, but we've already forgotten completely what it's like.
It's
And
so true.
it's like it never existed and we never grew up that way.
What was life like before streaming services, before
Oh my
delivery
God.
services, before like when you
Like
actually had to
Netflix,
go out
okay,
and get your food
dude,
yourself?
youngins, okay? Netflix used to come in the mail and
DVD girl.
and you had to wait and you only got to get so many at a time and you had to then send it back and
Yeah.
wait to get another one. Like
Yeah, it
we
was Redbox Plus
yeah,
because Redbox was, like, at CVS and Walgreens and stuff, so you still had to go out of your house to get it,
yep.
whereas Netflix was just like Redbox, but they would deliver it to your house.
Yeah. Like and it's wild because again, you and I knew this life 15 years ago and
Mhm.
yet it feels like it never happened and we forgot. Like
Oh, for
we've
sure.
gotten so used to and conditioned so quickly to
Mhm.
convenience that it is a little wild how quickly we just
Adjust.
adapted. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we as human beings, we are adaptable creatures, so I get that, but it's almost
To our
too
detriment sometimes.
convenient. Yeah. Like, I really feel like at one point we will become the society in WALL-E where
I
everybody's
know.
being carted
Just
around.
hovering around, not
Just
moving. Everything's handed to you by
yes,
robots.
honestly, and I dread that idea of that happening. But, as we're wrapping up, we're gonna do 2 more hot takes. We have
Yeah.
more, and so we'll probably do another episode of this. This hot take is hilarious, and I'll tell you why. When I put this on this doc, I didn't really have any sort of story behind it. It was just
Mhm,
something on Reddit that I put on here.
mhm.
Cut to Tuesday night, I finally sat down and watched all of Heated Rivalry. I had watched 1 episode and then kind of sat with it for a little while, and then I binged watched the rest of the episodes. And funnily enough, the scene spoiler alert, the scene where, Rose confronts Shane about being gay,
Mm-hmm.
she mentions this exact thing, which I thought is
Oh.
hilarious because I'm like, it's Hollywood telling on themselves, even though this is technically was not made in Hollywood, it was made in Canada, but I'm still saying, like, could this be true? And that is a lot of straight male celebrities are actually gay, but they're just closeted.
Okay. Ooh, now that you got me, because again, I saw this. I like just skimmed through this before the episode,
Yeah,
so it was there, but I didn't really think about it. But now that
yeah.
you mentioned that, no, now that you mentioned that, it has been actually interesting because in the last maybe 5 years,
Mhm,
I have been shocked to suddenly see actors that I saw for a long time fully playing a queer role
mhm.
very well and then finding out, wait. And some, for example, were like Hallmark actors that I had seen for years be the leading man,
Ah,
and there was never discussion about them being queer. And suddenly they, like, outside of Hallmark, played a queer role.
yeah.
And I was like in shock because I was like, what? And then to find out that either they're bisexual or they actually are gay.
Yeah.
And they've been pretending this whole time to just be a straight leading man.
Well, it kinda makes sense in that
Absolutely. Yes.
Hollywood and really society in general, though we have come a long way in acceptance and inclusion,
Mm-hmm.
we have so much longer to go.
So much more.
Because think about it this way, how many people have said stupid things like, "Oh, he's gay, well, now I can't ever see him play with a woman. I can't believe that if he's playing
Mm,
opposite a woman, that he's really into her and it just ruins the chemistry," and all of that BS.
mm.
It's not necessarily because I remember oh gosh, I don't remember the actor's name, but he plays Niles in Frasier. The show Frasier was from the 90s for those
Mm-hmm.
of you who maybe don't know. It went on for like 11 seasons. It was a
Mm-hmm.
very popular show. I think it's like David Hyde Pierce is his name. Anyway, was a gay man. He was actually married at the time that he was playing Niles. And
I did
Niles
not know
is a
this.
straight yes. Well,
What?
and here's the thing, he talks about it in an interview, and it's more of like a recent interview too, where he talked about how he wasn't closeted. He just didn't talk about his personal life. He didn't talk about his sexuality. He didn't think that it was something that he needed to publicize. He's like,
Wow.
everybody that needed to know, like his friends, his family, his coworkers, they all knew that he
He
was gay and that he was married. But in terms of like the public, which I think he has a point. I don't think that it's the right of the public to know what your sexuality is. And I
agreed.
don't think that by not publicizing it that you are suddenly closeted. I think as long as the people in your life know about it, then and if
That's what.
plenty of straight couples have very private relationships where they don't
Mhm.
talk about their significant other. They're not out seen together because they want to keep it low key, or maybe they live in a place where there's no paparazzi, so there's no paparazzi photos of them together. Like if it's okay for a straight couple to do that, then it should be okay for a queer couple to do it as well, if that's what their preference is, to keep
Mm.
their private life private. So, yeah, it was never publicized, but he was, like, very clear in the interview, he's like, "I wasn't hiding it." Like,
Wow.
it wasn't a secret. It just wasn't something that I thought had anything to do with what I did for a living. He's like,
Mm.
"Me being an actor and me being a gay man who's married had nothing to do with each other." And so I didn't see the point of, like, bringing it up in interviews or talking about it, because when I talk about things in interviews, I'm not talking about my personal life, I'm talking about
Mhm.
my work. So
Exactly.
I think that there are a lot of situations like that where people are just like, my private life is my private life and my work is my work, and those two things are separate. I think that there's also a stigma, like I said
Mm.
earlier, where if you come out as openly, you publicize
Mm.
your queerness, if you publicize being gay, then there's a chance that you might get held back from opportunity,
Yeah. You're not
roles,
gonna get no, and that's the reality, especially 15 plus years ago.
right?
You were not the roles available for men specifically were very much limited to being a straight leading man. Very few were available for any kind of gay character. And more times than not, especially 15 plus years ago, a gay character was not the leading role. And
Oh, for
so
sure.
they had to, it makes complete sense why so many of them would hide it, because if they were trying to build their career as actors, they were very limited and had to then, especially back, I mean, well, still today, but I can imagine also all of the bigoted people in Hollywood and
Oh, for sure.
producers and studios. So the fear of not having a career kept them quiet.
Well, also think about what women have endured in Hollywood.
Yes.
You don't think that gay men would also be solicited? You don't think that they would also be, you know what I mean, by
Oh,
some of
yeah.
these producers and directors and things like that
Who
who,
themselves were closeted either bisexuals or gay people. And yeah,
yeah, with full-on wives, you know what I
yep.
mean? Like,
And children and families and all American.
yeah. And we're
But
not
they,
talking lavender marriages where you're like, no, I'm
no.
gay, we don't sleep with each other. I'm talking about wigs. I'm talking
Yeah.
about pretending to be straight when you're not.
Yeah.
Not only that, so there's the safety aspect of it, especially in previous years.
Mhm.
There is the opportunity aspect of it, which is ridiculous because if straight men can play gay men,
Yeah.
then gay men should be able to play
Well,
straight men.
isn't that ironic? There's always
Yeah,
that
a
double
double standard.
standard.
Yep,
Yep.
it's totally true. And then there may be people who just don't want to be public about their private life. So there could be a whole host of reasons, but I do think in conclusion
Mhm.
that at least to this point, that
Yeah.
the more separate and concerning one are those that are sort of living on the down low and
Mhm.
they are themselves dealing with internalized homophobia and they don't want to be out. They don't
Mhm.
want to engage in a romantic relationship with a partner, a loving relationship with a partner. They're just doing the DL thing, which is usually strictly sex based.
Yeah.
And mind you, they will turn around in their locker room talk and use derogatory terms for queerness or talk badly about the gay community
Mhm.
while also being on Grinder at the same time. I mean, there's a reason why during the Republican convention, Grinder literally went down. There were so many people using it at the same time. So,
Ironic. All that to say, great material, fictional material. You should watch Heated Rivalry.
you should watch Heated Rivalry.
And we
And
might have to talk about it in a future episode. We'll see.
oh, 100%. But now we are to finally the last point, which is probably going to be the most controversial of all of them.
I'm so curious to hear what you have to say about this. Mm. The final
Ooh.
hot take for this episode is there is nothing inherently immoral about cannibalism.
Okay. Do you
Did
do you
you?
want to say anything first or do you want to hear what I have to say about it?
I really am curious to hear. I mean, for me, it feels very obvious. I'm almost curious, like when you found this on Reddit, were there any comments below this? Um, but anyways,
No, surprisingly, no, there were not that I could recall. So here's the thing: we animal flesh, yes, we are different in the sense that we are sentient beings, but we are
mm,
still animals at the end of the day. We have flesh,
mhm,
we have blood,
mhm,
just like cows, just like chickens, and I think that because we are sentient beings with a consciousness, and we know morally what is right and what is wrong, we view other creatures as being inferior to that because they don't
mhm.
have the same sentience that we have. And so it's easy to look at them as being food,
Okay.
whereas humans are not food. Now, I want to preface by saying that this hot take is about cannibalism, not murder.
Well,
Murder
that's
is
the
wrong,
thing though. But see, cannibalism would usually entail that only fresh meat would be desirable to eat because
right?
because if you are only partaking in already deceased flesh, you're not going to want that. And
Well,
so
I mean, when you murder someone, they are dead and you cut
yes,
them up
but
and
it's
eat them.
immediate. Yeah, but it's fresh. It's immediate. Just like with an animal, you instantly do the kill and preserve it. And so, if cannibalism wasn't
Mhm.
inherently immoral, and people were more open to it, I feel like that entails more murder to get the fresh meat that you then put away and preserve to eat later.
I think well, there are whole cultures that you would practice cannibalism for other reasons. They believed that by consuming the flesh of another person, you would gain their powers or abilities or whatever it is that you wanted. And it really is just envy at the end of the day and projection. You feeling like this person has something that you don't have, and therefore you want to consume them in a physical way. We do that in other ways. We do it emotionally. We do it in mentally with other people that have something that we want. It's like a emotional cannibalism or a mental cannibalism where we're trying to get what they have, essentially. But yeah, there were cultures, and I'm sure there was murder that took place. I do remember this on the Reddit, people talking about, or this person talking about prefacing it with aside from murder, essentially. So in other words, if somebody were to pass away from natural causes, or natural being like either sickness or injury or something like that, being able to consume the flesh. I do know of one story, because I listen to a lot of murder mysteries. I do know of one story where somebody actually put out an ad because they wanted to partake in cannibalism. They had a desire to eat human flesh, but they did not want to kill somebody. So they asked somebody to volunteer to allow them to eat them. And so it was completely consensual. Somebody actually did respond to that, and it was consensual.
To die or just give them a piece of their body?
Initially, it was just to give them a piece of their body, but I think it went wrong and the person ended up bleeding out, but it wasn't an intentional murder. Logistically, I think it wouldn't be possible because, like you said, I think that there are too many gray areas, and there's too much of an opportunity for it to go wrong.
Well, and I'm also thinking if it was something that was acceptable, per se, people would get tired of waiting around for a dead body that they can consume. And it would get to the point that they would want more of it with the more they partake. And the easiest way to do that is to get fresh meat more often than waiting around.
Plug Tender as a Flesh, such a good book. It's all about this this subject right here. But if you don't like horror, then you probably won't like that book, but it's such a good book and it's such a short read. You can read it in one day. So I agree with you. I think that that's where the gray areas come in. First of all, I don't know that cannibalism would be as popular as we think it might be, just because it would be like, let's say, legalized. And this person isn't talking about making it legal. They're just saying that there's nothing inherently immoral about eating another person. And I do agree with that. I think there have been stories of people who have like climbed mountains and gotten stuck, and their
as an
people
emergency
have died.
survival.
So in those situations, I was like, I actually don't think that it's immoral to eat somebody who's already dead. And that is what cannibalism is. Eating cannibalism in its most simplest definition is eating human flesh, whether that be human flesh from a live person or human flesh from a dead body.
Exactly. Aren't there adverse side effects to consuming human flesh?
That I don't know. That is also another gray area where I'm not really sure. But just because something is bad for you doesn't mean it's immoral. Again, health-wise,
true.
Because some people, for example, my husband has a very difficult time digesting beef. So for him, he doesn't really consume a lot of red meat because it doesn't agree with him. And studies have shown that consuming a lot of red meat can contribute to health issues. So, even eating animal flesh can cause health issues. It can cause things like fatty liver disease. It can contribute to high cholesterol, things of that nature. So I don't know that it has an adverse effect in the extreme sense of what you might be thinking, like what happens when two people commit incest and they have a child, and that child comes out with challenges and deformities and things like that. I don't necessarily think it's like that. But
even if it
who knows?
But like you mentioned, even if it was, that doesn't add to the argument of whether or not it's immoral.
Yeah, I think it's problematic in other ways, in the sense that it just logistically would not work, and I think too many people would feel very uncomfortable. I know I would feel very uncomfortable by the idea of anybody eating human flesh. I also just don't think that we taste good. Like,
some people differ. There was that Hulu show, I never saw it, but I think, was it Fresh, with Sebastian Stan and Daisy, I forgot her name. that she was in Twisters.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he was like he lured women into dates and then ended
Mhm.
up tying them up and was slowly carving pieces of them to eat and then doing it very expertly in like fine dishes to the point of making them taste it too to convince them
Yeah.
that it can be delicious.
I mean,
Um
we have Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter. There
yeah.
was that movie that Timothy Chalamet was in, and he was a cannibal in that movie as well. I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, I mean, cannibalism is obviously taboo. It's
Mhm.
obviously something that people have an issue with. It does entail killing somebody, so in and of itself is immoral.
Killing or
But
harming someone, yeah.
killing or harming someone, but the act of eating flesh is not, I would have to agree, is not inherently immoral. You might not like it. I don't like it. I don't feel comfortable with the idea of it. But let's say for example, in this book, Tender is the Flesh, there's a disease that affects all of the animals, and so they have to go to eating, basically creating and harvesting humans for their meat. Now, there's more of an intense factor of it in the sense that, like, obviously they are harming people. They're doing it in a mass production type of way, where, like you said, if it was mass produced the way that we
Mm.
do with beef, with chicken, with
Mhm.
fish, you would have to kill people. And so that therein lies the conundrum of it. But if somebody were to get stuck up on a mountain and somebody dies from natural causes, let's say there's a blizzard and they freeze to death, and this person is still alive and they have no other food or resource, I am not going to sit there and judge them that they ate somebody to survive. They did what they had to do. It's not what I would probably do. I'd probably just be like, "Universe, take me."
But see, then that also comes into question. Different people have different sets of morals. So
Yeah,
morality can vary from person to person, even though overall it is a distinction usually between right and wrong, good or bad.
yeah.
Um, but that differs per person. So
I think yes, but I do think that there is sort of, I mean, it's why we have laws. There's sort of a universal morality that we tend to all in certain ways agree upon. Like, obviously majority of us think that murder is wrong. Now there are people who do murder and they don't have an issue with it, but they tend to be in the minority as opposed to the people who feel like, I mean, because if not, then we would all be killing each other. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, so I do think that there are sort of universal moral codes. We all agree that, sex should be between two consenting adults. You know what I mean? There are always going to be people who feel otherwise.
Hmm.
Again, there are people with desires that they can't necessarily control in the sense that they have the desire, but they can control whether they act upon it or not. So you will have
Hmm.
people who have a desire to eat human flesh, but they may never act upon that desire because they feel like it is wrong.
So my conclusion for me is
Yeah.
that according to my morals, I do think it's inherently immoral, but there are exceptions like with everything. Like you said,
Mm.
the freezing, because the same thing would be for murder. Murder is morally bad to me. And as you said, universally to most society,
Yeah.
but people who murder someone in self-defense, there's an exception, right?
Yeah,
So,
but then that would be labeled self-defense.
yes, but it's still technically
You're
killing
killing
someone and
someone.
and you
Yeah.
murdered someone.
Yeah.
Whether, the intention behind it is justified or not, it was
Yeah.
still the same act.
I agree.
So for me, that would be my answer, that I think it's inherently immoral, but obviously, like with everything, there can be certain emergency circumstances that,
Gray areas.
yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do not necessarily want to live in a society where cannibalism is acceptable. I
Mhm.
do think that that is something that I would never want to actually see happen in real
Mm.
life, or something that, because I have control over myself, I would never participate in.
Mm.
And just the idea of it makes me queasy. But I do think that there, like you said, are exceptions. And I do think that there is a good argument for saying that it's not inherently immoral
Mhm.
to participate in cannibalism. if done in a very specific way. Just like you would argue that somebody in self-defense that killed someone didn't do anything wrong. That wasn't immoral because they were defending themselves. It was either them or,
Yeah.
you know,
And the
this other
justice
person.
system doesn't always favor the person in self-defense. They still
Yeah.
consider it a murderous act, so they still consider punishing the person who only acted in self-defense.
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about that woman who's, I think, still sitting in jail right now. I could be wrong about that. Who murdered her rapist and her human
Mm,
trafficker. And they put her in jail for doing it, even though a lot of people would argue that she didn't do anything wrong in that
yeah,
situation. So,
yeah.
yes, I do think we do have a personal moral code that we abide by, and I do think that there are some things that are more universal than not, as far as, like, what we agree all agree on is not good, and what we all agree on, you know, is not acceptable. And I think most people would say that cannibalism is not acceptable, but I do think that there could be an argument for exceptions.
Okay, okay.
So
Interesting.
with that being said, oh my
That was a
goodness,
great way to end that note.
this is gonna be a clip on Instagram and YouTube, and people are gonna go buck wild about it.
Yes.
But friends, we're so glad to have had another episode with you guys. We hope that you enjoyed all of these hot takes, and we will
Mm,
do more of these in the future if this is something that you all enjoy watching. And we
mhm.
want to hear from you. We want to know, one, are there any hot takes that you have? Because I'm sure we all have controversial opinions in some way, shape, or form. May not be
Mhm.
controversial to everybody, but they are to us. And
Mhm.
two, are there any hot takes that you heard today that you want to voice your opinion on? Because we would love to hear that as well. Especially if you don't agree with our opinion on the hot take, it would be very interesting to hear
Yes.
the alternative perspective. But please, as always, be respectful. We're not here to get into a fight or an argument. And if you come for me and I didn't call for you, I will send you. I'm very
Mhm.
good at words and I have a very, very thick skin. So most of the time I'm just laughing at these comments, but I will read you for filth in return if you if you try me. So just know that we want to create an environment in which people can express their opinions without being shamed or guilted or condemned for them. We don't want any nastiness. We want respect. We can respectfully agree to disagree.
I was gonna say that exactly. Please, friends, come comment, like, subscribe, follow, do all the things. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on any podcast platform, which nowadays allows you to also like and comment or subscribe and follow. And then, if you could also do us a favor, friends, and review the podcast on a podcast platform, whether it's the episode or the show as a whole, that
Mm-hmm.
makes a huge difference for the algorithm. Hopefully, it then encourages others who would also like our content to come and find us, and we can continue building this awesome community. So, friends, thank you so much for hanging out with us this week. This was a lot of fun, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.